Work Item Hub. In this section, I'm going to go through a little bit of information about the Work Item Hub. This will help you to personalize pivots that will help you interact with work items that are important to you and have been assigned to you. These core features, as part of both Visual Studio Team Services and Team Foundation Server, will allow you to be able to manage your workflow much more efficiently. So what is it? Well, these are the following work item types that might be relevant for you within a team project. The first is assigned to you. This is whenever you assign any type of work item to yourself. That could be a test case, that could be a user story, as soon as you've assigned that item to do work on. But you may also want to follow work, very much like social media and something like Twitter. You can follow work items that you might be interested in keeping track of. And also, just like within social media, you could also get a mention with the @ sign. So by simply adding @ and then the first name and surname of the person that is in the team, you'll be able to link them and also give them a notification. You can also customize more advanced rules around this, and we'll cover this later on. You can also look at your activity, so items that you've looked on, viewed, or even recently updated, and things that you might have changed. So let's go and have a look at the Work Items Hub. For this walkthrough, I'm using Visual Studio Team Services because this feature is currently in preview status and will be rolling out quite soon for Team Foundation Server. So as you can see, we've got an entire new project, and what I've done is I've added a number of type of work items and assigned them to myself. So what I should be able to see is that this will update when I go into Work Items Hub. So within Work Items, as you can see, I've assigned myself a number of activities, a test case, product backlog item, and so on. What I can do now is I can filter on these, so I can filter by type. So for instance, test case, a state where it's either designed open, or even an area that you may have assigned a subfolder or subfunction of the tool. You can also use smart tags, which are very efficient when tagging certain types of test cases or requirements so that you can do reporting on them, which we'll cover in a later chapter. At the moment, I've not actually looked at following anything, but if I click this icon on any of the items that aren't assigned to me, then what I can do is I can follow that item. However, I should have some mentions. In this case, I've mentioned within a task that I need to do something. So if I open that up, what we can see is that 7 minutes ago, I've been remembered to add some, in this case, ATDD, so acceptance test driven delivery, to a description. Now that's important because you can actually use the filter to actually be able to search on queries that, say for instance, are when requirements are empty or acceptance criteria are empty. So this is quite a powerful capability. I also have all the activity which I've done. So how I've assigned all these tasks to myself and then assigned these other tasks to another user. And that user, I can now follow that item. And as you can see, it says I'm following. If I move back and go to the following tab, I'm now following that bug. And as I mentioned before, at the moment, the acceptance criteria is empty. So I might want to be able to search for all of the bugs where acceptance criteria is empty to go and populate them up. Customizable work item rules are really extremely powerful. They're able to allow you to set actions for automated changes to any behavior or any conditions that are met. In the example before, we mentioned about if there is, for instance, no acceptance criteria on a story, this might be required to someone to populate those acceptance criteria. Alternatively, the example could be a trigger event that happens when an estimate is changed. That maybe exceeds the remaining amount of time or the remaining work item to give you some new calculation or generate some kind of trigger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of how you can use custom rules as part of your process template. So I'm just going to open up a backlog item and then go over to the customized feature. This will bring up the process template, but also allow me to navigate over to the rules. Now I've not created a rule, so I'm actually now going to create a rule from scratch. So the example we gave before was acceptance must be defined, And then what we're going to do is going to set a condition that when a work item changes to or from a particular state, so in this case it's going from new to, say for instance, approved or committed, then what I'm going to ask it is, and if there's no value defined for, in our case we wanted to do acceptance criteria, then the action which we're expecting is that we can change that to be make, say for instance, required. So therefore they have to add acceptance criteria if they try and commit between the two phases. So if I click save to that rule, we now have that rule committed and we can run that, or we can actually disable that. But anybody who now tries to move from new to approved will have to add acceptance criteria. So let's quickly check that works. So let's go to my work items. And now let's go to the product backlog item. Okay, it's currently set as new, has no acceptance criteria. So what I'm going to do is try and change it to approved. And what we can see now is it's come up with a message saying that it's not able to commit that without adding some acceptance criteria. So given, when, then. So now that I've added some acceptance criteria and click save, I'm now able to commit it to the next stage. Okay, we've covered work items and the various types of work items, new functionality within work items hubs, and also how you can do custom rules to customize the flow or process that you may want to enforce across your organization. In the next video, we're going to go through planning sprints with Scrum methodology.